Let's talk a bunch of different topics.
How'd her career get there?
This is a podcast with Lauren Asghari.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening. Hit that like button, leave a positive comment, or hit subscribe to get alerted when new episodes drop. All of this will help keep the project going. Thank you for your support and enjoy the episode. This is the Lauren Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? And my guest today is Gina Ramsey, who is the president of Pink Dog Digital. Also, a couple of accolades I want to highlight before we let Gina introduce herself and her company. Named by the Daily Record, one of the best women-owned businesses in Maryland in 2024. And then previously, a Maryland Top 100 Woman by the Daily Record and Best Digital Marketing Firm. In addition to a ton of stuff that we'll get to that Gina and her company does in philanthropy, and in the community. So we will get to all of that. But before we do, Gina, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. I really appreciate it. And in typical Baltimore fashion, I noted that we have 245 people in the area in common. So this should be a pretty fun conversation.
I know it's always fun going through and talking beforehand, before this, just bouncing off all the names that we know. It's funny, small world, to your point. Well, let's get started with giving just kind of maybe 30-second overview of Pink Dog Digital, and then we'll weave back to it later in the conversation.
Sure.
But what does Pink Dog Digital do?
So we are a full-service digital marketing firm. Website, social media, search engine optimization, all the AI things that people are saying you can do and can't, we do. Advertising, email marketing, and we work primarily with small businesses. We've got some larger clients, but we really like to work with small businesses and help them grow through their digital footprint.
All right, perfect. Let's jump in our time machine. I always like to start off trying to give the audience an idea of what Gina was like when she was younger. So just a little bit of background on you, like where did you grow up? Only child, siblings? What were some of your personality traits when you were younger?
Yeah, so grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and was an only child for 10 years. And then, whoops, we had a little sister. So I was and remain very much the caretaker. Like, mom and dad worked because that was latchkey kid day. So I was babysitting at 10 years old. And to this day, I'm a great babysitter. I'm not a mom. Great babysitter. And always knew that I liked media. Like, I liked television. I didn't like to watch television, but I like to understand television. So I guess I kind of was born with this marketing chip in my head.
Mm-hmm. And what were some of your personality traits as a kid? Shy kid, outgoing, curious?
I was that kid that had great student, talks too much on every report card. And I went to Catholic school, so it is drummed into my head to always get an A. A. Never anything less. Not shy, obviously. And it was on the weekends in the summer, you leave your house first thing in the morning and you come home when the streetlights come on.
Mm-hmm. And when you were younger, I know that you were always interested in media. Were you thinking like, I want to, I guess, what were you thinking, or did you like, okay, when I get older, I'm interested in doing this, or watching people on television? Like, were you interested in like acting? Were you interested in, well, I'll just ask you instead of naming the options. What types of things or careers were interesting to you as a kid?
Oh, so it's funny. When I was young, women didn't have a lot of career choices. They became a nurse. They became a teacher. They became a secretary. They may have worked for a local, state, federal government, but business owner was never part of the equation. Advertising was never part of the equation. So we just had this conversation this weekend. When I was young, real young, I wanted to be a secretary named Linda.
And had you talk through your, well, let's hang on that a minute. Is that because you had seen that and you aspired to it, or you just, of all the options, that was interesting to you because?
That was super interesting to me because it was business. And I knew my dad was in business and my mom was in business. So teaching kids, not so much after you are part of raising a little kid from 10 years, and then taking care of people, same thing, nursing, not my jam, but it was business. But I was never taught that women could be more than that. A secretary was a woman in business. And so that's where I went.
And what was, actually, I'm going to get to that question later. What were some of the personality traits, maybe one or two that you distinctly remember from your childhood, either from your parents or from other people, personality traits that you got from them or were positively reinforced in you as a child that you still carry with you today? Useful ones.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll only go there because I still have both of my parents. Both of my parents were salespeople, and I am a natural salesperson, business development, connector of humans. And the other thing that I think really shapes who I am today in many, many ways is that my parents were very accepting of all people, which was unusual then. We had young people, old people, people that looked like us, people of color, gay people. Like, we had people in my house. So I grew up in a very accepting and welcoming household that if you talk to anybody that knows me today will tell you that is who I am. You are welcome in my world. Till you're not, then that's one of those bad personality traits.
What, so talk through a little bit kind of how you got to starting your business. So you grew up in Ohio. Talk about after you finish high school, where does your journey go from there?
Oh boy. All right. So, I got married almost immediately out of high school to the practice marriage. And again, I didn't have a college degree, so I became a secretary. And it was a property management company, and one of the owners of the property management company embezzled $2 million and left and moved to Egypt. And I was running this property management company at 20 years old. And none of the other partners had a clue. And they came in one day and they were like, "Where's Joe?" And I was like, "Egypt?"
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy train. So I ran this company until I was probably mid-20s, at which point the attorney for that company was like, "You should be doing something other than this. How about we hire you?" And I went to work as a director of development at a law firm for a while. And then the law firm's advertising company said, "You should be doing more than this." And I went into Yellow Pages sales. And so when I was in my 30s, and I got divorced by then, which was a whole thing. I was making six figures and rocking and rolling, great car, great condo, lots of friends, doing all the things. And then I met this guy, and he had 3 kids and a crazy ex-wife. And 5 months into our dating and having this amazing relationship, he said, I got to move to Baltimore. You want to come with me? And I was like, all right, why not? So we moved here and I went back into Yellow Pages because in Cleveland, it was the best job in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got here, it was not.
And when you're doing, sorry to interrupt you real quick, when you're doing Yellow Page sales, that's literally trying to find people to sign up to be in the Yellow Pages, or you're selling advertisements you're selling advertisements.
Literally like, Joe attorney, you need a full page ad in these Yellow Pages.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great money. And it was literally a part-time job. I probably worked 4 hours a day. It was the best job in the world. And then I moved here. And I went to work for another Yellow Pages company. And it was not fun. It was probably the worst job I've ever had.
Because it was harder? Like the Baltimore market was harder, or the company itself?
The company, the people, it was a very, it was an old boys club. I don't like to play that card, but the boys got to do whatever they wanted to do. And the girls had to be there at 8 a.m. and they had to come back in at 5 and fill out paperwork. My clients were contractors. I worked until 9 o'clock at night at my kitchen table, and it was unheard of to them. And then the internet became a thing, and they kept telling me the internet's not a thing and this book is going to be the thing forever. And I was like, I am not lying to anybody ever. Not lying. This thing is a dinosaur and we need to do this. And they didn't have a solution. And I was just so unhappy. I walked in one day and resigned, effective immediately. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to lie to people. I'm not doing this anymore. That day, a company that I worked for in digital for 12 years, that day the guy called me. I had cold called him doing Yellow Pages sales.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, hey, do you want to come work for me? And I was like, sure. Moved to Baltimore, quit my job, moved to another company. Sure. Why not? Let's do it. And I was there for a really long time. I was there for 12 years. I started in sales. I moved up to a director level. At the end, I was a vice president of the company. And there were some decisions made at the company that, from a culture standpoint, wasn't something I was willing to be a part of anymore. And I called my husband and freaked out. And he said, what are we going to go on? We can go on less vacations. We can have fewer dinners out. Quit your job and start your own company. You've been talking about it for 5 years. Quit. And that was in 2018. And that is exactly what I did. I resigned effective immediately. And my clients came with me. My team members came with me. Started with me and a developer and a social media person and no clients. We have 160 clients right now, active. I've got 3 former members of that old organization with me right now. And I am loving life.
What was the moment? I want to go back to the question I was going to ask you earlier, but I wanted to wait. What was the moment when you, or do you remember the moment that you realized you can be more than a secretary if you want to? But was there a moment where you're like, oh, I see that more is possible now if you chose to do it?
No, I never saw it. Other people saw it. Every job opportunity I had, except for the one moving here, was the result of someone seeing something in me and saying, you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. Including and up until this job. When I knew that things were going to go off the rails with my previous company, I called my mentor and she was like, stop, I'll be over in 20 minutes. I'll meet you for lunch. And I blah, 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 like
Mhm.
for 45 minutes. And she just looked at me and she goes, "Are you done yet?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You've already just said what you're going to do. Now go do it." So, that was a very long answer to no. I've never seen it in myself. I've always been seen by other people.
And what was and I'm saying 5 years, maybe give or take, just based on what you said when you made the call to your husband, what was the hesitation to leaving and starting your own business?
Lack of self-confidence. I can't do this. This is too big. I don't have any money. I don't have an education. I don't have any experience. I don't have clients. We're going to go broke and wind up living in the street. Like just all this negative self-talk. And when my husband broke it down, like, okay, we have enough money.
Mhm.
Your money pays for vacations and restaurants, and we do that a lot. We can dial that back if we need to. And also, if I go to work for myself, I'm now keeping 100% instead of doing something for someone else and keeping 20%.
Mhm.
So maybe I can even work less and do more.
Mhm.
But I never, ever had the self-confidence to do any of these things. I'd still be running the property management company back in Cleveland if somebody hadn't said, "You can do more than this."
What would you say to your younger self? Like you get in a time machine, Gina gets to go back and she's having coffee with her younger self. What does she tell her?
Trust yourself, believe in yourself, and stop the negative self-talk. Just stop it. The minute it starts, flick yourself with a rubber band, go walk around the block. Just stop the negative and just focus on what you have the ability and the brains to do.
For any of your mentors and throughout your career, besides the one that you just talked about, where she said, "Do it." What's some of the other pieces of advice that you got that kind of hit you as like a yeah, duh moment?
So I had a supervisor back in Ohio. I had gotten promoted into the internet division before internet was a thing. I sound like I'm 100 years old. I'm not that old. Um,
I remember when the internet wasn't a thing too, if it makes you feel better. So
okay, good. I'm like, God damn, you're not 400 years old. Um, I had a teacher, a mentor teacher, she taught our training class, and she taught me about the movable middle. And the movable middle is in anything, in sales, in supervising people, in talent, whatever. You have 20% who are always going to be at the top of their game. They are going to excel no matter what. That is in their soul. There are 20% that are absolutely terrible. And you can't do anything with these people. There's no coaching, there's no classes, there's no training, there's nothing. But you've got 60% that is the movable middle. And your goal is to move them into that top 20%. And that was so impactful to me.
hmm I love that. What are some things that you've done, like if you're giving advice or in your experience to get the 60% to move up? How do you do that?
I think you've got to be really clear with expectations, which is something I have struggled with because I'm a very independent thinker. I've always, bootstraps and bare knuckles. You can't assume, and this is good for husbands and wives as well,
Mhm.
that the person knows what they're expected to do. And the person is not always going to do it the way that you do it. And so you've got to be really clear on expectations And if there are milestones along the way, then give those milestones. But you have to be really clear and then give feedback, good or bad. Because again, I got a paycheck. That was my atta girl.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody is wired like that. There are a lot of people that need to be told what they're doing, good or bad. That feedback is a critical part of their growth. So as a mentor, as an employer, as a team member, as a friend, manage those expectations, give clear direction, and then give clear feedback. Because if you don't have all three of those things, you're failing those people.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's something you hit on something that I wish I would have known or understood better just earlier in my career, earlier in my life, because to your point, with all relationships, I feel like it just would have made things easier. And the sounds when you say it, it's like, duh, of course, but I feel like people don't always actually live it, is that idea of like, not everybody thinks like you know, or like me, or and not in a negative way. I don't mean like, well, they don't think like me in terms of like, you know, social values or political values or whatever. I don't mean that. I just mean like how to solve a problem. Or if somebody tells me to do something, you know, if my boss tells me to do something, it was like never an option for me, like not to get it done. It like didn't even occur to me. Versus other, and if I had a question, I would ask the question. But for other people, they're intimidated to ask the question, or they really want to get it done, but they don't know where to start. And they're like, it's just interesting I feel like that would have saved me a lot of frustration, and probably a lot of people that I've managed over time, a lot of frustration of, as the leader, being much more clear. So I love that you said that, because I think that's so true and so invaluable. And for anybody in any sort of, whether it's leadership or just peer to peer, but being clear and direct on what you need, I think just ends up saving everybody all around a world of just ease. I mean, otherwise human nature, right? You tend to finish stories in your head. And usually human nature, again, usually defaults to a little bit of negative self-talk instead of, I'm capable to do that.
And I also think that you set an expectation. It's almost like mind reading. And like, I now know this with my husband. He's probably my greatest teacher in this, is in my brain, if you're going to be a half hour late, I need you to call me. Don't tell me that you got to take a trip for 3 weeks to Singapore while I'm in the middle of a big, like, he's a guy. Girls do it too. I shouldn't be like that, but you got to, Brian, if you're going to be late, I need you to call me. If you're going to be a half hour late, I need you to call me. I may have dinner planned. I may have, like, if you're not clear, you're upset at somebody who doesn't have the information that you have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're not being fair to anybody, them or yourself, by just having this, well, they should know.
Mm-hmm.
No, they shouldn't.
Yep.
They don't read minds. You have a responsibility to communicate clearly what your expectations are.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love that. What is the best part of your job?
Growing small businesses, helping people grow their small business. I love to see the smile when we send a report and then we do this meeting and they're like, you increased our business by 300%. That's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's downstream. I didn't just help that business owner. I helped their employees. I helped their employees' families. Like, that is such a rewarding comment when we know we've impacted them financially, their bottom line. It sounds corny. I realize it, but I like to help people, and those wins are so special.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot about that, like the ripple effect of any, it's not just that you're growing a company's bottom line, but when you're talking about small businesses, which really have a tremendous impact on the economy.
Absolutely.
But you're talking about that business owner being able to like rest their head a little bit easier at night, right? Or payroll being met, or those employees then putting like food on their table, right? It's not just like you're servicing a client. There's so many more layers to it, which I just find always impactful and inspirational.
Yeah, I mean, their vendors are getting paid, their team members are getting paid. Maybe there's a Christmas bonus. Their clients are happy clients. So then that, it is a ripple effect that has no end in sight. And maybe it's something that was instilled in me in school because Sister Joan of Arc still sits here all day long.
Mhm.
The answer is always yes, we're going to figure out how to help you.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk to that audience of small business owners that might be listening from a tactical level. What types of challenges might small businesses have that they would look to Pink Dog to help them with?
Some of them don't even know that. They know they need to do something, and they know this internet thing is something. They need to do maybe social media or blogs, or maybe they need to advertise. Where I see small businesses get in real trouble is when they're like, let's have the admin do that. Or let's have the intern do that.
Yeah, they understand technology. They're young.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. They've been on computers all their life. They'll figure this stuff out. And then I see the results of that or the implications. I was with a woman yesterday who her intern set up the corporate Facebook page and disappeared. And now she's locked out of her Facebook page forever and ever. So they don't have a strategy. They have maybe we should do something. I don't know what. That's when they need to bring us on and be like, what do we need to do? I hear every day, I need to be on Facebook and LinkedIn. You sell industrial iron. Why do you need to be on Facebook? Help me understand that. Don't get it. Or, well, I'm not going to be on Google because they steal your information. Okay, well, let's talk about that. So I think for us, we approach it from a very educational space where I don't know what I don't know, and I need somebody to help me. And then I've got a client, he's been with me since 2006. He gets the squirrels out of your attic.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I don't care what you do. I trust you. I like you. Do whatever the hell I need to do and just show me that it's working.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's a spectrum of things, but we will help you grow your business digitally 100% of the time, and we will do it for a fair rate and provide the results of our efforts.
And is that mainly where they, like in terms of your service offerings, is that where they outsource everything to you?
It's a continuum.
Okay.
We do consulting work with the business owner if they do have a resource that has time, talent, and interest in doing something, where we consult with that employee and help them through the processes, all the way up to full service outsource, where we're doing your email marketing, we're doing your social media, we're writing your blogs, we're doing the SEO, we're running the PPC campaigns. I'm sending a videographer out, I'm sending a photographer out. Whatever that looks like, we will make it work. We don't have, it's funny, we just went through an exercise where we ran us and all of our competitors through AI and said, tell me the differences between these companies. Every single competitor it came back with, Pink Dog Digital offers custom solutions based on the client's needs and budget.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one.
Which is
awesome.
Yeah, when you're a small business, I mean, that's what you need, right? That's so perfectly speaking to your audience and the clients that you serve. I mean,
a small business could be a $500,000 client.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that gets the squirrels out of your attic. A small business can be a $10 million insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be really nimble and meet the clients where their needs are, not what we tell them they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always going to come to the table with a suggestion. It's going to be the A game. But if they're like, not so much, then we'll scale it up. We'll meet them where they need to be met and scale it up.
And what is in your industry, and we can say in digital marketing or as a business owner, however you want to answer the question, what's the underbelly or advertising media? What's the underbelly or worst part that people don't necessarily talk about?
Liars.
Elaborate.
People will tell you they're going to do things and charge you for things that they're not doing. I was in an executive roundtable. That's why I talked to so many ladies yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ladies was going to pay somebody $550 a month to update her Google business profile. That's not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it may take a couple hours to set it up. And then if you want to post new pictures or whatever to it, unless their hourly rate is $550 an hour, which I would love to charge,
Mm-hmm.
that is not a thing. People talk about getting you to the first page of Google. Well, that is a thing if you advertise, but then you've got a huge advertising budget on top of the maintenance piece of it. I can't guarantee somebody's going to be on the first page of Google organically. That's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
I can't increase the traffic to your website by 100%. That's a lie. I may not always tell you what you want to hear, but I will always tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm. What if you could give advice to anybody based on your experience, advice to anybody who is now let me back up. I want to ask this a different way. When you started your business, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had
Finding good people.
to work for you? Not clients,
Yep.
people to work for you.
Clients are great. I can find clients all day, every day. To find people that have the talent and the commitment and the interest to do the job and do it well. Right now, I have a team of unicorns and I am truly blessed.
Mm-hmm.
But I struggle to find people that care. They are punching a clock, they're checking a box, they're doing the job, but they don't care about what it looks like in reality. And, I hear a lot, oh, it's the millennials, oh, it's the Gen Zs. No, it's not. It's the people. I don't care how old you are. I don't care. One of my best employees doesn't have any formal marketing degree, any education, anything, but he cares about the clients. He gets it. He cares about me. Every day I get a good morning, how are you? End of the day. Did you have a good day? Can I do anything? There's a lot of people that just don't care. They're just checking a box.
What other traits do you look for, do you think are valuable?
Caring about the team is incredibly important to me. Because if you drop the ball, it's a cascade effect.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to care about your team. You need to care about the clients. I like to see people that are involved with giving back to the community. If you are in your bubble and you aren't doing anything, it's probably not a good fit for this organization. And I think being extremely open-minded, but also having principles and values. We had a client approach us about a really sketchy business idea. And I sat down with my team and I said, here's what it is. I'll take the money, I'm okay. But how do you guys feel? And they were like, we're not comfortable. We declined the engagement.
Mm.
So it just breaks down to caring, like just caring. I don't care if they have the education. I don't care if they have the experience. If they care, I can probably train them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, we're not flying airplanes over here. We're posting to Facebook.
Right. But I think that's a valid point. Like caring encompasses so much. It encompasses extra effort. It encompasses being kind and supportive of your teammates. It encompasses accountability. I mean, all those things, right? It encompasses grit. All those things factor into, if you care, you're more likely to push on those other things to get results.
Yeah.
Let's do a pivot there, because you mentioned it and it's something that I definitely wanted to cover with you. Let's talk a little bit about philanthropy and your experience personally, and then I know that your company is also involved in the community and different types of things. So let's share a little bit about yourself or your company and what you've done in that space.
So there's an overlap because as a company, we're able to support a lot of these nonprofits from their digital space as well. Each team member has a pet project that they are involved in that we talk about every year, and we decide to support those pet projects. And those pet projects, I kid you not, go from a fox and wolf rescue in San Diego that I support to a blood cancer organization here that I support, that the whole team is involved in. We go and feed patients and their families at Kimmel when they're in chemotherapy. We have an LGBTQ member who supports a Broadway initiative to support the LGBTQ members of cast and crew. We have Share Baby, which is a diaper and formula library for families who cannot afford diapers and formula. One of our team members goes every Tuesday and volunteers in the warehouse. We do, during Black History Month, we create donations and campaigns for Black Girls Code, which is a nonprofit that helps Black girls get into STEM. We do quite a bit. And it's important for me to not only do the ones that I care about, but it's important for us as a company to support the ones that my team members care about.
We follow the exact, or I shouldn't say the exact, very similar philosophy at my company in having designated, we do designated volunteer days and get our staff involved in what we support. Why is that so important to you?
You are not just a business owner living in a silo. You are part of a community. You are part of a greater community, and your team members are part of communities too. And while I'm not part of the LGBTQ community, my team member is, and therefore I'm going to support them in their effort, because that makes them want to support me and mine. And it works to keep everybody moving towards the same goals because they want to, not because they're getting a paycheck or they have to, or their spouse says they have to do this job or whatever. We're all working towards helping the greater good of the Baltimore community. And I think that is so important these days.
Mm-hmm. What, I've one more question I want to ask you before we get to rapid fire. But before I do that, is there anything that that you want to cover that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure our audience hears?
No, but what I would say is if you or any of the audience members are interested in volunteering at Kimmel and helping us feed people, we would love to do that. Or if you have a large enough company, we would love to be able to come in and do a bone marrow drive to get people on the registry to help blood cancer patients get life-saving bone marrow transplants.
And where, if anybody's interested or to learn more about, I'll make sure that we link some of this up in the show notes, but what's the best way to get in touch or contact you or somebody at your company on those types of things?
They can email me directly, Gina@pinkdogdigital.com, or call us at 410-696-3305.
Okay, perfect.
And there is a list of our nonprofits on the website, so you can see what we are currently either supporting, giving to. But There Goes My Hero is the one that we're looking for places to swab and bodies to volunteer and feed these patients and their families.
Okay, we'll make sure that we link those up. My last question that I want to get to before I do rapid fire, which is unrelated to everything that we've talked about so far, is how do you define success?
I wake up every morning looking forward to doing what I'm doing. I don't have the Sunday scaries. I don't dread cracking open my laptop. I don't dread client meetings or meetings with team members. I will get up. I look forward to it. I'm excited about it. And at the end of the day, I put it away and I'm excited about spending time with my family.
Love it. Love it. How do you, I said that was my last question, but now that led me to one more very quickly. How do you look at or approach, or what's your philosophy on work-life integration, family and business?
You just use the words. There is no balance. Sometimes work takes precedence. Sometimes personal takes precedence. You do what you have to do, and then you take the steps when one is on the opposite side of the coin to take a breath, to take a breather. At Christmas, I was spent. I took 2 weeks off. My team, if they saw me in my email, I would get a get out of your email. Or if I'm spending too much time playing, I'm getting the, hey, we really need to make a sale. I need you to get out there to this networking event. So it is truly work-life integration. I do not believe in work-life balance. And I think that's an unfair thing to set people up for, because you're never going to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I see it the same way. All right, let's go to rapid fire here. Totally unrelated to anything we've talked about, just whichever answer comes to mind.
No fun.
Browns or Ravens?
Ooh. Ravens? Ravens.
Okay. Grass or sky?
Sky.
Pen or pencil?
Pen.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Brick or stone?
Stone.
Go to a movie, watch at home?
Watch at home.
Astronaut or deep sea diver?
Oh, none of the above.
Sun or moon?
Sun.
And the last one, in the Super Bowl, Chiefs or Eagles?
Fly, Eagles, fly.
That's that East Coast.
More like anybody but the Chiefs.
We have
that
it.
girl.
Yeah, you are. We have a running, tally in our office where people are picking sides, and the Eagles side is winning at this point. Though, I will say I am cheering for the Chiefs, but
okay,
I go back and forth. But
that's fair. It's going to be a fun game one way or the other.
It will be. When you watch the Super Bowl, do you get into like watching, do you like watching the commercials for like the advertising side of it, or are you like,
If we're not playing, the only thing I'm watching is the commercials. It's not my team. I don't care. So social media, commercial, and then I record the commercial so that I can go back and bring ideas to the team. I'm that nerd.
I love that. Well, Gina, thank you so much. This was wonderful. It was great getting to talk with you and get to know you better. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate you. And we should do this in real life. With that many connections, it's foolish that we haven't.
I agree. We'll get something on the calendar for sure.
Excellent.
This is the Lauren Asghari podcast, How Did Her Career Get There? And again, my guest was Gina Ramsey with Pink Dog Digital. We will link everything up in the show notes so you can see how to get in touch with Gina and learn about the causes that her and her company are involved in and learn more about Pink Dog Digital. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Let's talk a bunch of different topics.
How her career get there.
This is a podcast with Lauren Ascari.